Hey, it's me, John Beckerman, and you are watching the Letterman podcast with Mike Chisholm. And coincidentally, I am Mike Chisholm. That's your bit, right? That's your bit.
That's my bit.
I'm doing your bit.
Thank you, buddy.
Welcome once again to the Letterman podcast. My name is Mike Chisholm. All right, today we got John Moran. Now, John has had a long career in broadcasting, going all the way back to when he was an intern, or not even intern. He was in the Page program, but before that, yeah, there was an internship actually with NBC, working for 30 Rock in the 70s. He was there during the inaugural season of Saturday Night Live. Was starting to get his chops on the technical side of broadcasting, and went through a bunch of things that we go through, all the way back to when he was delivering TV guides. I just love the idea that as a child, he was so taken with television and wanted to get into it as a career, and did so and moved towards that and never really looked back. And for over 4 decades was in this career. In '86 was hired by CBS and did a whole bunch of stuff in the videotape library and a few other things for CBS at the Broadcast Center. And then in 1992, the news that David Letterman was bringing his Dog and Pony Show over to the network, and talking about this career that he has had with Late Show. He was the guy during the Q&A that would hand Dave the mic and get it back. Now, I mean, he was a utility. He did boom mic stuff. He did all sorts of stuff for Late Show, but he was there from the very beginning to the very end. We go through a bunch of the memories with John here today. It is a fantastic conversation. Now, I will tell you, there was some technical challenges. We've had those on the show before. I will do my very best to edit those as much as we can. But the stories that he tells, stories about Hal Gurney, stories about Jerry Foley, Steve Kaufman. So we talk about some of the crew that we've lost up to this point, and given some really nice tributes. But then also Dave Dorset, one of his best friends in the world, camera 2 for Letterman for so many years, and just a lot of the different things that would happen during the show. I just really appreciate Johnny and his time today. Letterman Podcast is one sponsor only. That is hello-deli.com. Go to hello-deli.com for official Late Show with David Letterman merchandise curated by Rupert G. himself. Letterman Podcast is proud to present my technically challenged conversation with John Moran. John, I am so happy that you have taken time, not just time, but you have actually taken meticulous time. You have made sure that your presentation is going to be as good as possible. You've gone to a friend of yours who's a voiceover guy in the business. I dig that. You've gone to his studio because you've taken, you coming on the Letterman Podcast very, very seriously. The amount of notes, the amount of pictures you sent me, I am really grateful that you've taken time to do this. And really, when you think about the career that you have had in broadcasting, boy, it is sure nice to meet somebody who has really curated so many of these amazing memories. John, you've had quite the career in broadcasting. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Letterman Podcast.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's my pleasure. And I got to, give special thanks to you directly to keeping the Letterman iconic show alive for everybody to share. It's all about sharing, right?
That's just it, man. It's I'll tell you one of the things that and I've mentioned this on the show before, but I'm astounded how quickly the world forgot Johnny Carson. And we're talking about a guy who was the biggest star in the world. He was the most recognizable face on the planet, and how quickly some of these memories fade. Well, with what you all did night after night forever, so many people depending on you as their consistent marker to end the day. I just think it's important to go back and take a look at some of these things and to see how the show was made. I mean, all these little teeny tiny details that people may not necessarily understand are people who are quite literally, craftspeople at the highest level of whatever discipline it is that they were part of the show. I want to go into you, because you obviously had a career in broadcasting. You're one of these guys that had a career in broadcasting. You worked for CBS for a long time before Late Show showed up. I want to get into all of that today. Yes, you were the guy who at the Q&A, Dave would hand the microphone to afterwards when he was finished the Q&A. You're that guy, but you're so much more than that. And you've got a lot of memories. I want to talk about that. Let's go back. Did you used to deliver TV Guide as a boy? Is that
Yeah,
true?
and also, yeah, we got to start off with where it all started. I mean,
Sure.
not me personally, well, me personally,
Yeah.
but where it led to,
Yeah.
point A to point Z.
Yeah.
So, most of my buddies had newspaper routes.
Yeah.
I tried it. It lasted about a month because on Thursdays, all of the advertisements were packed in there, and you had a newspaper that was like that
Yeah.
big,
Yep.
carry this satchel of sorts, a sack around
Mm-hmm.
your neck,
Yep.
and it's like 40 pounds. And I said to myself, especially when it was raining,
Yep.
I didn't need that. So the entry point was, hey, I like TV. I want to be in TV. Why not deliver TV guides? I had like 27, maybe 30 or more customers
Yep.
in the immediate neighborhood, very light. It was 15 cents cheap back in the day.
Yep.
I delivered TV guides. So one particular week, there was a picture of a CBS television camera.
Mm-hmm.
They were promoting the CBS fall season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at this picture and I said, maybe that's what I want to do. I want to get into television, maybe TV cameraman. It's kind of a dream, but I had a vision to go there and, fast forward 44 years in television and movies,
Mm-hmm.
point A to point B. But TV guide, delivering TV guides was kind of the starting point. But really, one of the original starting points was my mom and stepdad. I think it was on my 14th birthday. They got tickets to the Ed Sullivan Show.
Mm-hmm.
We wound up front row center in the balcony. Michael Jackson was on the show. And I'm
Wow.
sure you'll have cutaway shots of Michael with his purple hat singing whatever the song was at the time. And I looked down, literally, I was like, holy, that's what I want to do. At age 14,
Yeah.
there was the TV guide. Hey, I saw the TV camera, wanted to be in television, but that kind of brought it to fruition for me.
Yeah.
Thinking ahead that this is what I want to do. I saw all the cameras, the lights, the
Yeah.
boom. I saw Ed with this, and it was a live show.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe you're too young to remember Ed Sullivan. Maybe
No,
not.
well, of course. I mean, he's in the ether in a pretty major way. Before I get to the next question here, what was the name of the newspaper and what town were you in?
The Newark Star Ledger.
Newark Star Ledger, and you were obviously in Newark. It would be weird if you were
Oh,
somewhere else.
the outskirts. It was like Kinnelon, New Jersey,
Ah, there we go. Okay. Now,
Bloomingdale, New Jersey. Yeah.
Um, the idea of the whimsy of seeing the cover of a TV guide, seeing a television camera, and being, kind of zeroed in, magnetically attracted to it. Going and seeing Ed Sullivan, I mean, seeing Michael Jackson. This is the Jackson 5 Michael Jackson at the time. He's a superstar of a young lad at this point. Now, I know, like a few months ago, I went to see Kimmel tape a show. And for me, every time I would go to Late Show, every time I would see one of these shows, I was always, obviously I was entertained with what was going on, but I was fascinated looking around at all of the people who were putting the show on. That was something that I just really, really zeroed in on and enjoyed. Was that something that that you felt even at 14? Were you taken by the whole experience and the environment around you?
Yeah, absolutely. The lights, the cameras, and I even nudged my mom and I said, I think that's what I want to be when I grow up, kind of thing, you know?
Yep.
And I was like, then several months, even a couple of years later, I was drawing pictures of TV cameras. And I'm like,
Okay.
and I created kind of a vision for myself. And I kind of, spiritually and otherwise, I took it from the universe saying, this is what I want. There's a book called The Secret. You probably know about it.
I do.
Basically, it's uh, concentrate on what you want,
Yeah.
not what you don't want.
Yeah.
Try to make that kind of a thing in my life. So I was just fixated television, television, television. And there was a time when I was in high school where I
Hmm.
was in radio. I
Hmm.
did on air news for a local radio station in northern New Jersey, in Newton, New Jersey.
What was the
WN,
call sign? Do you remember the call sign?
yeah, it was WNNJ, WIXL FM.
Wonderful.
And I did weekends. And this was the time when during the Nixon impeachment hearings.
Oh, wow.
So I took it upon myself. I bounced it off the news director at the time. I was, I think, I want to say 20, 21,
Hmm.
and in college. And I said to him, I want to go to Washington to cover the hearings.
Hmm.
So I had access to the local congressman at the time, Joe Marazziti. Long story short, there was no security back then. I
Yeah.
went right up to Joe's office
Yeah.
and I said, Joe, I want to interview you. Would it be okay? He was on the House Judiciary Committee for the impeachment of President Nixon.
There we
So
go.
he says, come here, come with me, kid. He took me down to a news conference that he was in.
Yeah.
And here we have Sam Donaldson, Ted Koppel, all the guys with their microphones.
Yeah.
And I'm there, barely 21, maybe, or 20, whatever the age was.
Yeah.
Got my little WNNJ microphone and, I'm asking questions, And then after the news conference, I went up to Congressman Marazziti's office, and I said, I'd like to do a phoner report. You know what a phoner report is, right?
Yep. Yep.
I literally took the phone and I gave a short tease. And here is Congressman Marazziti's response
Yep.
to the proceedings which occurred today. And I literally handed him the phone. He did I don't know, like a 35-second soundbite.
Yep.
I took it back to the station, packaged it,
Yep.
and it was on the air. Actually, I was in high school, not college. I was in high school. Uh,
Wow.
maybe it was sophomore or junior in high school,
Yep.
maybe senior. Um, but the next day, some of my teachers, holy crap, I heard you on the radio. You went down to Washington and did that. And I go, well, yeah. So anyway,
That
it
is
was,
fantastic. So and you mentioned The Secret earlier. The idea of, and I mean, I'm a walking advertisement for literally, oh, you see something that you want, okay, just go and try and see what happens, and don't look for the things that could go wrong, but look for the doors that open, and then when you walk through them, see what might happen. Isn't it funny how when we're either someone doesn't limit us, whether it be parents or friends or people, crabs in the bucket, right? When the crab's crawling up and the other crab comes and pulls them back into the bucket. Isn't it funny how when that doesn't happen,
oh
how,
yeah,
the doors that open and the places that we can go. And if you don't know what you don't know. And I mean, you cut through here and here you're walking around with people who will go on to be giants in news. And here you are as in your formative years hanging out with these people, just and hanging with them. And that is just a very, very cool thing. Did you go to school for broadcasting, or did you go right into the business and basically just learn your way up throughout the industry?
Yeah, I went to Ramapo College, which at the
Hmm.
time, maybe it still is a state school.
Yeah.
I majored in communications, of
Yeah.
course. My major was contemporary arts, which was a mix of fine and performing arts. And that opportunity being at Ramapo College led to a couple of internships. Number one, WNBC in New York. The second one was the Associated Press. And the third one, boy, it'll come to me so many years ago, but
Yeah.
three internships. But the one that made a difference was N NBC.
Yeah.
There were 700 applicants, only three were to be chosen. I
Yeah.
was one of the three, and it was the local station, WNBC, and gave me an opportunity to look over a lot of shoulders, producers, directors. I remember my first experience, my first show that I observed was a show called Not for Women Only with Frank Field, meteorologist, Polly Bergen, and Barbara Walters.
Wow.
First guest, Betty Davis.
Wow. Are you kidding me?
I, and I said to the producer, one of the stagehands, is it cool for her to be smoking in the studio? And then the response was like, Betty Davis could do whatever she wants to do. And I counted, I think, 9 cigarettes or 11 cigarettes before it was before the interview was over. And I got to meet her. Hi, how you doing? So it was interesting.
That is very, very cool. So is that in 30 Rock? Is that where
Yeah,
the
yeah.
location was? So you're a young guy, you're interning, and suddenly you're in the most famous broadcasting building in the world. Is that what led you to become part of the Page program?
Yes, I was a page, 1977. I worked on the original Saturday Night Live with Aykroyd, Belushi, Gilda Radner, all those people, and great experience. I was right there on the studio floor. I was basically a tour guide. I
Hmm.
gave tours of the network,
Hmm.
and one kind of funny story, one that jumps out at me now. I'm thinking about it. I had a tour of mostly hearing impaired young adults and children.
Yep.
Part of the uh, part of the tour was the sound effects demonstration, right?
Hmm.
So we had seen the Saturday Night Live set, the Phil Donahue set, a soap opera set, Master Control. Now we're
Hmm.
in the elevator, and I turn to the group and I say to them, "Would you all like to see the sound effects demonstration?" And oops, right? So the signer person, he signed it and he basically said, we don't think so. So I went on to the next stop.
But then you had your script down. I mean, so you talk about acting and whatnot. You had some performing arts. Back then, being a page, you kind of had to have that a little bit, right? Because it was basically a script. You were basically going through a routine every single time, and I don't know how many of those you would have done a day, but it gets a little bit of acting chops down, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. The page program now, as we speak, all the millennials, uh, they say it is more difficult to get into the NBC page project than it is to get into Harvard.
Yeah.
And, I believe it. But back in the day, it was like I went from an internship program to a temporary staff job in scheduling
Yep.
where I was with Biff Henderson, the great Biff Henderson.
Yeah, you go way back with Biff. So this is the first place that you met Biff?
Well, I was a scheduler.
Yep.
Okay. Scheduled all the crews, NBC Nightly News, the soaps, all the NBC shows. And of course, I would see Biff every single day. We were schedulers together from 78 to 1980.
Yeah.
Had the same boss, Tom Smiley.
Yeah.
He was the original TD on Howdy Doody. Okay, just a little tidbit information there. So yeah, Biff went on to obviously being a stage manager,
Yep.
and the rest is history, as they say.
Absolutely. Now, I'm gonna fast forward really quick, and then we can rewind back to this place. Did you know Janice Panino at all?
Yes, I worked with her. She was the HR person over at Letterman.
Yeah. So
We
she used to run the Page program at NBC. Did you guys ever bond over the fact that you were a Page and she ran that program?
No, that was a different era, as they
Yeah,
said.
of course, of
I,
course.
I was a Page in 77. At
Yeah.
the time it was, I think it still is, you have 90 days, no, what was it? A year and a half,
Yep.
to be a Page, give tours of the networks, work shows, etc.
Yep.
And then the objective is to get you absorbed into the system,
Yep.
by way of
Yep.
output. And that's exactly what I did. I
Yep.
had a series of temp jobs, and yeah, so Biff became a stage manager.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, just a
And
great guy,
and
good friend.
so how long did you stay with NBC before you moved over to the Tiffany network?
Let's see. Uh, okay, there was the internship, and
Yep.
then a series of temporary jobs. I left NBC in 78, 1980, and
Yep.
then I got a job as a tech at RCA, which was in Vernon Township, New Jersey.
Yep.
We were a satellite station, and videotape playback and editing facility for Showtime.
Yep.
So the gig there was 4 years, from 1980 to 84. I was hired with pretty much no experience.
Yeah.
The lovely lady gave me a real break, and so um, it was called Out the Door in '84. Everybody was laid off. Showtime uh, created and built their own studios and
Mm-hmm.
playback center
Mm-hmm.
in Smithtown, Long Island.
Out the door in 84. So at that point there, I mean, had you okay, so 84, you got a kind of a breather here. You've been busy through your formative years, starting to get some experience in the industry. You get this time where you're laid off. Was television or broadcasting still whimsical to you? Did you fall in love with it and knew that you wanted to stay with it?
Oh, absolutely. When the layoff occurred at Showtime, I was employed by RCA at the air
Yep.
station,
Yep.
and everybody was scrambling. What do we do? Where do we go from here? A lot of the guys got jobs at CBS
Mm-hmm.
as in videotape or air control or other areas. One gentleman, coworker of mine, got a job at NBC. That was Peter Sullivan. Peter
Peter
Sullivan,
Sullivan.
great guy. He was kind of like, yeah, Peter Sullivan. He was a shop steward at the time. We were, believe it or not, we were Teamsters.
Yep.
The Teamsters organization had a television arm and I think a radio arm of their operations. And there was a time where we were almost on strike, but it never happened. But if you're ever in New Jersey, which I don't think you'll be, but there's numerous satellite dishes which comprise it's RCA Americom uh, satellite earth station.
Yep.
One very, not a funny story, but uh, they were a satellite tracking facility, right? They flew the satellites.
Yep.
And at the time, RCA had, I don't know, 300 satellites. He was in the satellite side, and suddenly, I think he took a nap or something, and now the satellite is missing, never
Uh-oh.
to be seen again. And
Never
it
to be
made big
seen again?
news, the satellite, you know. It apparently it went out of it, and I don't know, it probably burnt up in space, or maybe it's in Mars. I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that.
That's a crazy story to have in your head. Yeah, it's just a story that, oh yeah. A guy I know, he lost a satellite once, never to be seen again. You know, that's a funny story to have in your head.
Oops.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a big oops. Okay, so at this point here, that's when CBS came a calling.
Well, I worked a couple of temp jobs in
Yep.
between. I was laid off this, um, once for 5 months, another for 4 months. Collected unemployment. I think it was $180 a week. Yeah,
Mm.
but I bounced back. I worked at WPIX, the local flag flagship station in New York. I did freelance there.
Yep.
I did a vacation relief job at NBC,
Yeah.
back to my original roots, going
Mm-hmm.
back to when I was an intern,
Yep.
and worked an on-air videotape. And guess what? Of all things, I was in I worked the midnight shift. Came
Yep.
in at about 11:30, walked down the hallway, go to the library, put up the 1-inch tape of Late Night with David Letterman.
Yep.
So I did the playback of the Letterman show. I
So what
would
does that
put it
mean?
up
What does that mean for the people who aren't in the business? What does that mean, the on-air playback?
on playback. I'm the guy that, literally took the 1-inch tape,
Yeah.
put it up on the machine, checked it in with master control, making sure all the levels were proper, and then I would cue it up. We had an air copy and a standby copy.
Yeah.
So uh, if the air copy, crapped out, then master control would switch to the standby.
Mm-hmm.
So I was that guy. I was VR, or vacation relief. I
Yep.
think it was like 5 months or so.
Yep.
And then I think I did some freelance work with PIX, or WPIX.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, March 18th, 1986, my first day at CBS.
Mm-hmm.
And the story I like to tell, which really isn't true, I tell a story just for some laughs. I go to the men's room. It was my second day, and I'm at the urinal.
Uh-huh.
I look, I look to my right, Walter Cronkite. I look to my left, Captain Kangaroo. Again, not a true story. It's a joke I like to tell.
But it encapsulates perfectly, though, what you did when you were there. These are people that you worked with while you were at CBS very early on.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, my good friend, my best friend, Dave Dorset. Okay,
Mm.
he was camera two on Letterman. Just a
Absolutely.
sidetrack.
Yep.
He was Walter's go-to guy, camera two.
Yep.
Dave Dorset, 47 years at CBS, and Dave did a tremendous amount of bits
Mm-hmm.
on the Letterman show.
Absolutely.
He was sort of close to the heartbeat, with Letterman. He got uh, all kinds of very fancy gifts from the host. And
So
but
let me ask you. Let's talk about Dave here, because we've talked about Dave on the show here before, and I wanna, that you kind of opened the door here perfectly. You've known him for years. You knew him back when, at the end of the day, and I'm not saying that he wasn't this for Late Show, but he's a straight-laced veteran camera guy. Working for Cronkite, working for the CBS Broadcast Center, doing the heartbeat of CBS. He's one of the pillars that people could depend on. What do you think it was that when Late Show started, that Dave took so much to Dave? Like, what was it about Dorset that Letterman liked so much, do you think?
well, largely, I think it was the writers. They wrote all of these bits
Yep.
for. I was in, I want to say maybe a dozen bits.
Yep.
After the 6 or 7 bits that I was in, oh, you got to join the union now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How much does that cost? $3,000. All right. Here's my $3,000. I might have bounced a check or something, and I joined the union. But anyway, sidetrack from that. Dave was on numerous times,
Mm-hmm.
different bits. If you go on YouTube, you know his bits still
Oh, there's
live.
all sorts of, yeah, Dave Dorsett's all over that show. Absolutely. And we're hoping to talk to him at some point. That would be so great if we did, but we're going to send him another shout out. We said it with George. And we've got other episodes coming out too but I'm glad that you and I could talk about Dave here because he definitely deserves some love from this show here. So Dave Dorset for sure. So back then, yeah, let's talk about back then. Is this a guy that took you under his wing? Is he a guy that you go for beers afterwards after a broadcast? What are we? How did the friendship develop there?
Well, there were no beers because Dave wasn't a drinker.
Yeah.
But his retirement party, I kind of got involved in that. I took him out for Chinese,
Yeah.
just around the block and around the corner. And Jerry Foley went up to Dave after the show, and he said something like, "Dave, don't be in a hurry to go home." And that was like Dorset's cue. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, he knew something was up. So
Yeah.
I took him out to Chinese, and we come back, and suddenly there's got to be 150 people. Of course, all the crew people,
Yeah.
and it was. I think you could do cutaway shots when you do the edit. Uh, Dave's retirement party, 47 years. When he left, by the way, you knew he was on. He did Rather as well. He
Mm-hmm.
left. He left CBS Evening News with Dan Rather to go to Letterman.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Rather threw him a retirement party at
Yeah.
the pub down the street. Connie Chung showed up, a lot of people, and hey, Dave, we're going to miss you. Uh, you're always welcome back at news. So, and I worked in the broadcast center as well,
Yeah.
videotape, uh, doing on-air videotape,
Yeah.
playing back commercials. I think I did one or two one or two Super Bowls playing back commercials, and what a hot seat that was,
Yeah.
playing back, multi-million dollar commercials. But I did that, and so out of videotape, I was there, I don't know, X amount of years, and
Yep.
then the Letterman opportunity came up, and that's a story in itself.
Well, and that's we're gonna get there. So for 6 years basically, you're working for CBS. Do you remember when you first started hearing the rumblings that Dave might be making the jump and you guys might be the receiving end of that?
The year was 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was fully aware, the press, everything, they were totally aware of the show coming over. And I had how could I put this? I had an interest in taking a long walk to over 30 Rockefeller Plaza. I figured, something drew me to 30 Rock, my old stomping grounds.
Mm-hmm.
I was a page, I was, an intern there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I go into the building, I take a loop around the entire, building, uh, the security entrance, um, the old Page headquarters was right there on the bottom floor.
Yeah.
And so I come out of the building and I run into a gentleman by the name of Jack Sumroy.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out he was the director that I referenced when I worked on that show, Not for Women Only,
Mm-hmm.
Barbara Walters and Frank Field. And I worked with him, and I said, Jack, this is again like 20 years plus
Yeah.
later. I said, Jack, John Moran, I worked with you on Not for Women Only. I don't know if he pretended to remember me or if he was sincere, but a great guy. He's still with us to this day,
Yeah.
Jack. So I basically said, Jack, I hear NBC and the Letterman. I hear the Letterman show is coming to CBS.
Mm-hmm.
He says, yeah, that's true. That's a great thing. And I said, well, I'd love the opportunity to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I've been at CBS for X amount of years, and it would just be a dream come true. I work in videotape, gave him a long spiel, like, a verbal resume of sorts.
Mhm.
He says, I'll tell you what, send me your resume. And so I sent him my resume, and he did reference the fact. He says, "Oh, by the way, I'm good friends with Hal Gurney. We're golfing buddies." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a couple of points there, right?" So apparently, he sent the resume to Hal Gurney.
Mhm.
Hal Gurney then, in return, gives it hand delivers it to Jerry Foley.
Mhm.
Hey, check this guy out. I think he's Irish. I think he's like 100% Irish. Gurney. He says, see if you can help the kid out, right?
Mhm.
So just as a backup to the backup, okay, the resume to Hal Gurney, well,
Mhm.
from Jack uh, Sumroyd to Hal Gurney, golfing
Mhm.
buddy.
Yep.
Uh, and so Hal gives it to Jerry. And then just back up to the backup, I went, I think 2 days later, it was a rainy day. And I didn't have an umbrella. I had to put my resume under my shirt.
Yep.
And I went into the theater and I hand delivered Jerry my resume. And he says, well, yeah, we'll take a look. And fast forward, I think it was like 3 weeks,
Mhm.
maybe a month. I get a call from scheduling
Mhm.
on my voicemail, the old style voicemail,
Yeah, the answering machine.
the answering machine, right? And it was scheduling. John Moran, give me a call. It's about Letterman. I'm like, I'm a happy man now.
Yep. Yes.
So I call him back immediately. His phone was busy. I called him back again. And by the way, his name was Kevin Chisholm.
No
Who
kidding.
Kevin Chisholm
Oh,
connects it.
fellow member of the Scottish clan, the Chisholm clan. Oh,
Yeah.
we're fierce with the fierce. That is fantastic.
Yeah. So Kevin said, "Here's the deal, Johnny." He said, "We're gonna put you on the Letterman show as utility,
Mm-hmm.
and it's temporary, 6 weeks
Okay.
on loan because the show was just about to get underway,
Yeah.
and they had a pretty much a full complement of the crew, but well, maybe we need some, XYZ type people, lighting,
Yeah.
sound effects."
Okay,
So,
just to give perspective for our listeners or viewers, utility. We've had Brian Semino on and a few others, but that is the person basically. You're the cameraman's right hand. You're basically with the cameraman the whole time, making sure you got cabling, you make sure you got all the assisting to make sure the cameraman or camera operator can do exactly what they need to do. Had you done utility at this point?
um, a handful of times when I worked with studio show crews,
Yeah.
um, and videotape, they would borrow me and work like a soap opera, pushing the boom around or kicking some cables, and one of the soap operas, like, As the World Turns or something like that.
Yep.
Other than that, I you know didn't have any experience. So, all
Okay,
right.
so I want to paint the picture here. So you get this call because again, people, it's just like the Johnny Carson thing we talked about earlier. The biggest show in the world is now coming over to CBS in that regard. But like you could not go anywhere without seeing a magazine or newspaper articles or any of that stuff talking about Letterman's move. It was the biggest story in show business, and they're coming over to your network. You want this thing. You basically, you throw your shot out there. And by the way, that's how the secret works. It's not a matter of these things just come to you. You got to actually put action out there, and then reaction. Like, you had the backup plan, and then the backup plan. You wanted this, and then you're told, yes, you're going to be a part of it, and you're going to be doing something that you're not necessarily intimately familiar with at the highest level. Was there any nervousness at that point, or was it just flat out excitement? A little bit of both.
I was utility. He's the He's the best of the best, multi-Emmy award-winning guy,
Who is
right?
this? Say that
And a
again. You
good
cut out.
friend.
Yeah, yeah,
And so uh, Al Cellino.
yeah. Al Cellino. And Al's hopefully coming on the show here very soon. Yep.
Yeah. So I was utility for him. So now I'm on loan from videotape, the world
Mm-hmm.
of video, which I was starting to get a little bored with
Mm-hmm.
because the technology was kind of changing. It went to, from what we called videotape, beta tapes, 1 inch tape,
Yep.
way back in the day, 2 inch tape.
Yep.
Now everything is robotic cameras, robotic tape, etc.
Yep.
So I was like, yeah, I'm ready for a change. I am ready for a change. So 6 weeks, I did my 6 weeks, sort of apprenticeship, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, hold on. We can't just gloss over that. So first night that you do your 6 weeks apprenticeship that's night one of Late Show?
yeah, it was the very first show.
So did you also do the warm-up shows, the preamble shows that never made air? Did you do those as well?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah. So the 6 weeks came and went. And then the tech manager at the time, Stacy Sullivan,
Yep.
fabulous lady, wonderful person. She said, John, as you know, you're on loan to the show. We'd like to make you permanent. And we'd like you to transition from utility to boom push.
Yep.
So Hal Gurney was a big boom guy. So I did boom push,
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And
Letterman.
describe that for folks. You're the guy who's literally walking around with the boom mic.
No, it's a platform
Okay.
that raises up, and it goes back to the Sullivan days. There were
Yeah.
two booms, one stage left, one stage right,
Yep.
and so it was the boom. For example, Jerry was not a boom guy.
Yep.
He was not a boom fan,
Yep.
whereas Hal, the boom. So
This
yeah,
is an old school concept when it comes to audio, right? This is an old school concept for
yeah.
these shows. Yep. Yep.
And then at one point, when Jerry came on board as director, he said, "Oh, you know what? Let's lose the boom. We're going to mic the guests."
Mm-hmm.
So there were a couple of times where the mic's guest crapped out. So
Mm-hmm.
I would have a lavalier mic on the boom, ready to go in. And one particular time was Alicia Silverstone was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
She had kind of like long hair, and it was brushing up against the mic, causing havoc. So,
Yep.
Jerry said, "All right, hey, uh, get her mic'd up, get her mic'd up." So I go in and very nervous. It's like approaching the altar when the Pope is serving Sunday Easter Mass, right? And there's the host, which I was a little afraid of, to be
Sure.
honest.
Yeah.
So I go in there and I do my thing, and Letterman looks up and he goes, excuse me, are you with the show?" I just wanted to just like, where's the egg? You know?
Okay, well, hold on. And so that I don't know if that was when she was promoting Clueless or not, but that's a fun moment. And again, we're not in Kansas anymore, kind of a moment, which is neat. But I want to go back talking boom for a second here. There was a pretty famous moment early on with Madonna with a boom mic. Were you the guy holding that one for that?
No, no. Al Norwood was the
Okay.
boom guy on the platform. He lowers the broom. But she was on for like 4 segments,
Yeah, she sure
and
was.
somebody was wearing headsets, or they call them cans.
Yep.
And here I hear some of the producers, "Get her off, get her off, get her off." She had at the time very slicked back hair.
Yep.
Letterman turns and Letterman replies, says, "What is that, a swim cap you're wearing?"
Yeah.
And she lights up the bar. she makes some references to the cigar. She makes references, and she goes like this, cueing the boom in, and then Hal said, all right, bring the boom in, and she smoking her cigar, and she made a reference to the boom,
Yeah.
which and then a lot of the audience members were booing her. You probably maybe saw the show.
Yes, and we've talked about it at length with different people who were at different vantage points with it. We had Kellison on; he talked about it, and I don't know if we talked about it on Morty's episode, but anyway, yeah, on a few of the episodes, we certainly a few episodes of the show have referenced that moment. But it's just you bring up the boom, that's one that comes to mind right away that Madonna had a little bit of fun with. Okay, so you're you're on the boom stand, so they say, okay, you did your stint, your 6 weeks. Any memories of the beginning of the show and whatnot, comparing it to, because I want to compare it, same with Dorset too, same deal. You're in really conventional broadcasting for a long time, and suddenly the Letterman comes in. Worldwide Pants is an entity now that is doing business with CBS, as opposed to everybody there being CBS employees, and there's this hybrid as they're kind of feeling things out a little bit. Was it a different animal, or was it and I mean, obviously it was a different job that you were doing as well, or was it business as usual for the most part? It's like, this is the TV business and everything changes.
Yeah, it was kind of a loaded question, but that's exactly what it was. Everything kind of like fit like a glove. Everything
Yeah.
just, and I think when we spoke on the phone initially a couple of days ago,
Mm-hmm.
I've got like 14,000 memories,
Yeah.
of which I've got some notes on
Oh,
that.
yeah, absolutely. And I get the salmon card out. I got the salmon card out today for my friend Steve O'Donnell. Yeah, you and I are going to we got episodes for days. I mean, we're just basically queuing things up for the stories now. We've set a beautiful stage here for the stories, and you have stories after story after story about being there, and the pictures you have, and also you referenced earlier that you became a member of the union. I mean, it's led to all sorts of extras on different shows as well, and you've had a lot of fun because of Letterman that just simply wouldn't have happened if you remained in the broadcast center.
Which led to a of movie roles, TV shows. Got to do 2 movies with Spielberg, 2 movies with Woody Allen. Did a featured role on a show called Instinct.
Yeah.
Lasted only 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons, and I was the murdered billionaire stabbed
Mm-hmm.
50 times by a serial killer. And I'm sure you'll cut away.
Oh yeah, I'll throw pictures on top of the whole episode. Don't worry about that. Yeah, yeah.
But that was a 3-day shoot, 11 hours each day. They treated me like royalty, like I was literally a part of the cast. They put me in the green room with Alan Cumming and Bojana. She was the female lead. She played the part of a detective.
Mm-hmm.
But that was season 1, episode 1. It was the pilot. And yeah, they killed me off in the first episode, those bastards, those producers. And but it was a great experience. They treated me like royalty.
Yeah.
Mr. Moran, how would you like your meatloaf? You know. Uh, so yeah, the opening scene was CBS had rented this townhouse,
Mm-hmm.
5-story townhouse down in the lower Manhattan for I think 3 or 4 days. It was astronomical. Somebody told me it was like $100,000 a day. They took it
Wow.
over. So that was the murder scene in the library.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, that was like 11 hours. And then a couple others, one other major scene was we did this, we filmed the scene at Harlem Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Ready for this? In the morgue. There was a morgue scene, an actual morgue.
Yeah.
Uh,
Doesn't get much more real than that. No set
yeah,
here.
yeah. CBS made arrangements with the morgue people. And so they cleared out a bunch of bodies or whatever they had to, and they put me in the drawer,
Yep.
out of the drawer, uh, like 17 takes. And it was a 1 camera shoot.
Mhm.
which translates into an 11-hour day. Okay.
Mhm.
For 3 days, I think it was in the morgue scene, but put me in there. Like I said, 17 takes,
Mhm.
total pitch black, of course. It was, I think, like 49 degrees. Okay. It was tight shot of the handler says, and this guy, blah, 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 blah. And they had dialogue back and forth between um, the star of the show, Alan Cumming. And we did 17 takes. It was a lot of fun.
Um, it's fantastic that you've had a lot of these opportunities to do that, and I mean, you know, we're scratching the surface when it comes to some of these little side gigs that you would get. Now, that being said, you were also part of a lot of Letterman extras and bits and things over the years. But let's go back. Okay, so at what point do you be the guy who takes the microphone from Dave every time he finishes the Q&A? How far into the run did that happen? Because the Q&A, for the most part, stayed pretty standard throughout the run until the end when it started going longer and they stopped caring so much about the 5:30 time, you know, but that was at the very end. When did you become the guy that Dave would hand his mic to after the Q&A before the show?
Letterman took 17 hiatus weeks a year, right?
Yeah.
So there were many of those hiatus weeks that I would, a lot of us would go on vacation. Anyway, cut to the chase. The one time, Brian Semino,
Mm-hmm.
good guy, very talented guy,
Yep.
and I believe he was nominated for Colbert this couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Uh, so Dave was very, every day the same thing with the Q&A. He
Yep.
would come out and bang the microphone on camera two's lens.
Yep.
And at the end, he would say, "Oh, I gotta go take my medicine. Have a good show," something like that. So this one particular time, I was not there. I think Brian was there.
Yep.
Had to do the mic take, so to
Yep.
speak.
Yeah.
So Dave backstage in a loud voice because the band is playing and everything else. Dave says to, you're a good listener, by the way, and
Oh,
thank you.
thanks. Thanks, brother. Many people say the exact opposite. They say I talk too much. So to hear you say that, I appreciate it.
So, uh, so Brian, I believe it was Brian that was filling in for me, with
Yep.
the mic. And then Letterman, in a very loud voice, says to Eddie Brill, who
Mm-hmm.
was warm up, to the audience before Dave comes out.
Absolutely.
Dave yells to him, and he calls him over and he yells to them. Uh, in a loud voice, he goes, "Where's the guy? Where's the guy?" Eddie was like, "What? Where's the guy?" Dave, John is on vacation. He's on vacation. We got it covered. We got it covered. No worry. Where's the guy?
Yeah.
Because he's all, he comes out of the audience, he bangs on the camera lens, and then at the end of the rehearsal, he goes over to the drums, beats the drums for 6 minutes, and runs out of the theater with his football. Well, with his football,
Yep.
Dave runs out of the theater. He beats the drums for
Yep.
5, and he runs out of the theater.
Yep. And Brian that night, I believe he had a little bit of fun with Brian when he was handing the mic back as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, he definitely did. See, when Dave sees somebody that he doesn't recognize, it could be like a page that's standing in the back or somebody new.
Yep.
He would say, who was that person? You know, and so there you go.
Yeah. Um, would he okay, so but for the most part though, he finishes the Q&A, you're the guy that takes the microphone back from him. Would he was it mostly business as usual, or would he try and have fun with you during that moment as well?
No, never fun with me, but
Yeah.
I tried. Well, I had fun with him. This one occasion where every once in a while, I don't know if he thought the audience sucked
Yeah.
and he would drop the microphone. That's happened a number of times, by the way. I don't know what the psychology is behind that,
Yeah.
but he would drop the microphone, and then I don't know what possessed me to do this, but it's a wired mic.
Yep.
As he went to bend over to pick it up, I reeled it in, and then he went to pick it up again, and I reeled it in again, right? The audience is having fun and laughing, right? And then Letterman says, hey, what are you trying to pull? Or could me after the show, he goes, Johnny, never upstage the star.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
But I didn't hear anything about it ever since. Uh, Another time, I took the mic and I have to race across the stage,
Yep.
not to get caught by the swooping camera that comes down the jib. Okay, the
Yep.
jib.
Right
So
as Alan Coulter is saying, David Letterman, you're talking about that moment, right?
yeah,
Yep.
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I start running across the stage. I think it was my left shoe, or does it matter? One of my shoes, my loafers, fell off, and it's in
Yeah.
the middle of the stage. And I take another couple of steps, and very quickly my mind is scrambled. Do I stop and retrieve the shoe, or do I keep going at it and like go through the exit and go home? Right. But I, I said, well, I was thinking, well, if I left the shoe, that would become not only an issue, but that would become maybe comedy. Who knows?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So running across the stage, losing a shoe on the stage, scrambled mind. Like, do I go back and retrieve that shoe, or do I just keep running to get out of camera range? Part of me, well, it was like there was somebody on my shoulders. Get the shoe, you idiot! Right. So I went. I got the shoe, and it could have been either a disaster. It could have been a comedy situation where Letterman would say to the audience, ladies and gentlemen, anybody lose a left shoe?
Oh, that's fun because the energy, and I don't know that people remember unless they were there, unless they were really dialed in and noticed this stuff. The energy, you guys shot that thing like it was a live show, and the energy was at the highest levels. The band would play. They didn't just play in and out of bumpers. They played the whole time, and to begin the show, I know what you're saying about audiences that suck versus a lively audience. It can completely change the show. And on the way in, you've got these audience coordinators that are getting people excited and hyped up, and you get in there and it's cold and it's you're wondering, and then suddenly the band kicks in, and they're playing Earth, Wind and Fire, or they're playing Sly Stone, or they're playing these crazy awesome high energy songs, and then Dave comes out and does this Q&A. Well, at that point there, I mean, when they play the opening theme, the place is at a fever pitch when it comes to energy. And that moment when you when that's happening, that is a very, very cool that's a very cool thing to have in your memory banks, that you lost a shoe running across the stage as things happen. I want to go through some of the pictures that you sent me, and I've curated just a few of them because you and I, we've got lots of stories that we can tell moving forward when it comes to this. Do you see that, John?
Yes.
All right. So first off, you made the photo club. So there's Tom Selleck, and then there's you in the background there. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that was.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that was Tom Selleck coming in, and just about every day we had the star arrival, I think we called it, where we
Yep.
had a handheld out, and Letterman would do the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Selleck up next. Stay
Yep.
tuned. And it'd be a cutaway shot of Tom coming into the theater. And
Yep.
so I was doing the handheld guy. I think it was Dan Flaherty.
Yep.
And when I posted it on Facebook some years ago, people were like, "Hey, you look like a gaucho guy with the pants," and then I was like a gaucho guy with with the cable there, you know. So yeah, that was yeah. Okay, here we go.
There we go.
Mr. T, not too many celebrities are, how shall I say, uh, warm and fuzzy and friendly. Mr. T, and there are others uh, that I can't really think of right now. But Mr. T was one of the kindest, just very spiritual, very religious guy. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, his his uh, role on TV on that show, was a different persona, of course. But he spent probably 40 minutes with us on the set and got to know a little bit about him. He was raised by his grandmother in
Mm-hmm.
a very, religious kind of a situation. And
Yep.
yeah, he was one of the great guys. Bill Clinton also. Bill Clinton came out to in front of this stage door. He took a photo shot. It was a photo op with the president.
Yeah.
And
I think we've got that one in here too, actually. But
Regis
um,
Philbin. Regis Philbin was another great guy.
well,
Uh,
yeah, I want to talk about Regis as well. Yeah, you've got I mean, we're talking, these legends in broadcasting that you have worked with. I'll stop sharing that. We'll get back to the slideshow in a second here. Some of the broadcasters that you have worked with, and visited and touched, just been around, been the crew for, or have seen tangentially. I mean, these are the biggest broadcasters that the world has ever seen. Some of these people, and Regis is one of those guys.
yeah, Regis started his TV career as an NBC page.
Yeah,
Him, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Kate
yeah.
Jackson. There's a host of talented, people that started his page. So one day I went up to Regis and I said, "Hey, Regis, just to let you know, I was a page back in 77. Oh, really?" He said, he's very genuinely interested. And I said, I just spoke to Peter Tintle the other day. Peter was his boss and my boss of the page program. And he goes, "No shit, he's still alive?" And Peter was probably 101. I said, "No, I'm messing with you. What a great guy." We had reminisced stories about Peter Tinnell. Uh, Peter Tinnell, I think, attended the 50-year NBC Page reunion.
Yeah.
Then fast forward, I attended the 80th
The 80,
year.
yeah, we got pictures of that in here as well. Yeah.
And so Regis told me, he says, "Oh, at the time I was making $152 a week or something like that."
There you are with the big guy. Speaking of legends of industry that you have, look at that. Where was the picture with Mr. Moonves taken?
Okay, that was the 30-year CBS Service Awards dinner, I believe.
Yeah.
It took place at a very fancy restaurant, and he actually came over to our table. I was sitting with some of the construction guys,
Yeah.
struck the entire theater when Letterman came over.
Yeah.
There were one or two seats empty to my right. So Mr. Moonves comes over. "Would you mind if can I have a seat?" And what are you going to say? No to the boss,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You paid for
So
the joint. You paid for this thing. You sit on down there, Leslie.
yeah, I said, "Oh, by the way, the roast beef is excellent." So he sits down, and of course, I'm being very professional, and I reference him as Mr. Moonves. And I
Mhm.
had met him another time. I forget what the event was, and it was another photo, which I think you have. And and so I kept saying, "Mr. Moonves." He leans over, says, "John, it's Les. Call me."
Aw.
And I'm like, Um, thank you very much, sir. And then we had a sort of a side conversation. I tried to make it personal. I said, "Oh, how's your son?" I said, "How's he? How old is he now?" You know, I'm pretending I've known him for 18 years. You know,
Sure.
not so. I said, just out of curiosity, Les, when they were looking for a replacement for Dave Letterman, again, just out of curiosity, were there any other options besides Stephen Colbert, who came from cable, the uh,
Comedy Central. Yeah.
Central? And he says, well, there were some options. I said, you know, like, what about people like Chris Rock, Ellen DeGeneres, uh, James Corden?
Yeah.
He says, well, James was a relatively unknown at the time.
Yeah.
Oops, right?
Yeah.
Long story there. I said, then he said, well, Ellen, she's making, I think it was like 300 million a year or something. She was tied to
Not quite that much, but boy, oh boy, yeah, no, no, no. She is an institution.
Ellen,
She's
Ellen.
absolutely an institution. Yep, yep.
And I'm thinking, I'm going in the direction, what about a female host?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go, you know, in that direction, female host. And she's, well, you know, she was tied to a show. Plus, she was making, you know, way too much money than
Mm-hmm.
we were offering to give her. And I said, well, Chris Rock. What about
Mm-hmm.
Chris Rock? He would have been perfect. Well,
Well,
Chris is making 22 million a picture.
yep.
We offered it to him, but he said, I don't think so.
He said they offered it to him.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
that's
they
interesting.
they entertained.
He was on the list, kind of a thing.
It was on the maybe short list, long list,
Oh, that's interesting.
but it was such an honor and a privilege to be sort of close to the heartbeat.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, he was like one seat over, for God's sake, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So, uh,
Did you know John Philo?
yes, a
Yeah,
great.
John's awesome. He told a similar story actually. Around the time, do you remember when there was a contract negotiation going on between CBS and Worldwide Pants, and there was a thought of moving over to ABC potentially? Do you remember that at all? Do you remember the scuttlebutt of that?
No, not at all.
Okay. So it was happening, but at the end of the day, the production was very happy where they were and all of that stuff. Well, John had heard that. I don't know if it was from Barbara or if it was from the high ups. It might have been from Rob. But anyway, he mentioned it to his boss back at the broadcast center, and they said, "Oh, come with us." And they immediately brought him up to Les Moonvez's office, and they said, "Hey, tell us what you just told. What you just tell Les what you just told us." And John said, "Well, apparently Letterman and company, or they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to go to NBC." And it was a very similar kind of an exchange where he was just kind of just talking to him like he's one of the guys, like they're just talking about stuff at work. But here it is, the grand poobah of the network, talking about things at the highest level. That is so cool that he would sit down with you and
Yeah,
talk with you at that event. Let's go to look at this. Okay, I like this one. I like this one. Now, is this Senator Clinton at the time? This must be Senator Clinton.
yes, it was.
Yes. Yep.
So interesting. Take note of the woman behind her.
Mm-hmm.
That's can't remember her name, but she's Hillary's executive assistant.
Okay.
So Hillary, when she was on the show, she had remarked to Dave, she said, "Oh my God, this is my first time in the theater. I am honored. I am privileged. This is a historic landmark." And Dave, the Beatles, Elvis.
Mm.
And she was so blown away with being impressed, being in the confines of the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Yeah.
So I was putting away some mics and I just casually went up to her. There was no, well, there was Secret Service around her, but uh, I just went up to her and I said, Mrs. Clinton, I really appreciated your comments about the Ed Sullivan Theater. I said, over the years working in videotape at NBC, I had access to the Ed Sullivan Show, and what I had access to primarily, was music acts that appeared on Sullivan. So I compiled late at night, working the midnight shift. I compiled, I don't know, 20 hours, 30 hours, whatever it was. Uh, I would record it on 1-inch tape. I would
Mm-hmm.
transfer it to, at the time it was VHS tape.
Mm-hmm.
These were recordings, in the 2-inch reels that weighed 90 pounds,
Yep.
90 pounds, and I would transfer it from 2-inch to 1-inch, 1-inch to VHS. So I said, I happen to have a uh, uh, a copy, an original recording, original copy of the original recording of the Beatles on Sullivan. She
Wow.
called over her assistant. And she says to me, she says to her assistant, "Give this gentleman your card." And I said, "I'd love to send the president a copy
Mm-hmm.
of the Beatles." I think they appeared 4 or 5 times on Sullivan, once in Miami, the
Yep.
rest in the rest in New York. So I said, "Well, what's the address other than 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?" She called her uh, assistant over. She gave me her card.
Yep.
A long story to make it a little bit shorter. My cousin was in the Air Force at the time. He had White House clearance, and I told her that, the assistant. And part of his job, I think, was to shuttle around the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Wow.
So he literally hand delivered this VHS tape to the Oval Office, to the go-to person. Here's a tape from John Moran. And I think he might have said, the woman said, well, they're going to have to take it apart, make sure there's not a bomb or whatever they did. So fast forward 7 weeks later, uh, Bill Clinton sent a letter to the CBS Broadcast Center with my name on it. Came in at this fancy, you know, uh, envelope. I think it might have been, it wasn't U.S. mail, I'll tell you that. So maybe it was FedEx, I don't know. So um, he sent me this wonderful letter, typewritten letter signed by him,
Wow.
and it was like box framing of the president. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think I might have sent you that shot. I'm
I
not
think you
sure.
did too. I think you did too.
Yeah,
That is such a great story. I love that story so much. And you've got so many of them. Look where we go. Oops. There we go. There we go. There's you. There it is right there. You
awkward.
know, how many nights? How many nights did you do that? Or a
Uh,
variation of that, you know?
Hundreds, if not millions. Uh, so, quick
And there's
story.
camera two, which you can see is all beat to hell.
Yeah.
There's camera two there.
Letterman would lean on it. And it was purposely unlocked so that he could play with the camera,
Yep.
so to speak.
Yeah, you move it up and down and do all sorts of yeah, yeah.
So with the mic handoff, what was I going to say? Oh, uh, the awkward moment was, I take the mic now. I'm going to run across the stage to get out of camera range. I accidentally left my late show fleece draped over the monologue monitor. So Letterman is about 3 minutes into his monologue, and he starts pointing at the camera because now he's jinxed, because everything has to be perfect. Everything has to align with everything, right?
Yep.
So he's pointing to the camera. Jerry says, "What's Dave pointing to?" And immediately, Jorge Ramirez, stage manager, throws me under the bus. Understandably so. I deserved a whooping. So Corky says to the director, "John Moran left his jacket across the monologue monitor.
Oh yeah, and you wouldn't know that. It's just a screen that's in front of Dave where he can see himself and see the shots and see what's going on. Like, I mean, because he's got the cue cards. It's not like a teleprompter, but it's a monitor for him to see how things are looking. And there's no way anybody in the control room would ever know that that is covered because it's not like it's not in shot. That's something that basically only Dave gets to see for the most part. And you've covered it with your fleece.
Yeah, his reference. And then I don't
Did
think
it make air? Did it make air? Or did they edit it out? Edit it out.
I'm not sure. Oh, a thing that did make air.
Yep.
I'm over by, Dave is doing the monologue. I'm
Yep.
over by the boom,
Hmm.
the platform there, ready to, go to work, so to
Yep.
speak.
Yep.
So when Dave says, "Oh, say hello to Paul Schaefer," part of my job was to wheel the monologue monitor in to the desk,
Yep.
right? So, um, where am I going with this?
What made air? Something made air one night.
Oh, yes. Speaking of my, sorry about that.
No,
So
don't be.
the monologue monitor was over by my boom.
Yep.
And for some unknown reason, maybe the floor was a little unleveled.
Hmm.
So I'm tied to the headset. Somehow it was the ghost of Ed Sullivan. Monitor starts rolling toward the audience. And now I'm tied to a headset. I'm pretending to don't worry, I'll get it, pretending, really, literally, pretending to get it. And then Corky kind of saved my life a little bit. He goes over and grabs the monitor, and the one wheel on that monitor was literally off the stage. That monitor was about 400 pounds.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so now Letterman, he's on the monologue mark, and it grabs his attention, and he points and he says, and I quote, "Ladies and gentlemen, an audience member, maybe three audience members were nearly killed." Now, tight shot of the wheel, Al Cellino's shot,
Yeah.
tight shot of the wheel, and the monitor is, that would have been like a multi-million-dollar lawsuit.
Oh yeah. No, no,
Maybe
yeah.
not killing, maybe not killing, three audience members, but you know,
It
it,
would have
it
changed their day, that's for darn sure.
would have been a bad day.
Absolutely. All right, let's do some more of these. I love that picture. I love that picture so much. That's such a great photo, encapsulating, one of the coolest moments of your day, every day or 4 days a week anyway.
Uh,
Look
yeah.
at this. Look at this. There's you and Paul, of
Oh, the
course.
resolution is unbelievable. What a great,
Yeah, some of them are better than others.
it's like one
You
of
and
those
Paul.
disposable cameras.
Is there a nicer guy than Paul Schaefer? I mean, isn't he the greatest?
Yeah, he was very approachable. Anton Fig in the band, he was literally very, very shy. He didn't
Yeah.
speak, but all the guys, Bones, Malone, fabulous people.
Yeah.
And
There you are down there during the Q&A.
yeah, working my ass off. I would every Christmas or New Year's, I would put it on Facebook. I would say, "Happy New Year from the two hardest working men in show business." Merry Christmas, men working in show business.
Oh, that's great.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Look at this. That's one of my favorite pictures in the whole world. A picture of my wife and I behind Dave's desk. There you are there. Um, just yeah, not much to say more than that than just boy,
That,
that's a piece of furniture. That's a very cool piece of furniture. I love that desk.
yeah, I would go in there, I think about a month before the show. That's the last show, by the way.
Oh,
I
that's the night of the last show.
believe so, yeah. Or the week.
Wow.
So a couple of weeks prior to that, I took my partner Janet into the studio, showed her around, and
Hmm.
it was dark and everything. And uh, I had a dog at the time. She's no longer with us. A Samoyed uh, dog by the name of Joy. I lifted Joy up and I put her on the desk.
I've got that shot in here somewhere.
Yeah,
We're getting to it. We're getting
yeah.
to it. Oh, look at this guy.
Oh yeah. He
There he
looks
is.
he looks familiar. That's me. That was in the show Instinct with
Yeah.
what's his name? Alan Cumming
Alan
and
Cumming, we talked about that earlier. Yeah. Yeah, you certainly don't look like you're resting in peace there, John. That's for sure. They
that was an 11-hour day. Oh, Alan.
Okay, so let's talk about this guy. Let's talk about Big Red. I've said this on the show many, many times. One of the catalysts starting this thing was Big Red passing way too soon. And,
Oh,
you know, Rick Sheckman used to tell me, he used to say that Alan was the guy. He was the nicest guy in the world. There was no pecking order when it came to Al. People were just people. And he said if Rick used to say to me, Mike, if Alan knew you were doing this show, he would do everything for you. He would do the voiceover. He would do everything. He was such a kind guy. You were friends with Alan.
he was everybody's friend.
Yeah.
Alan knew everybody by first and last name.
Mm.
It would be, "Hey John, how's your day? What's going on?" And see him on the street, he'd be just like, just like that with the fans of the show,
Hmm.
and they would do, photo ops with people, and just what a true gentleman. And he goes way back. His TV broadcasting career, as you know better
Hmm.
than me, he goes back to, I think, To Tell the Truth and
Yep.
what, those shows.
Well,
Iconic.
and this is the I call it the alchemy of folks who worked in Dave's productions. The people who go way back, the Hal Gurneys of the world, and Alan is certainly in that place. Jack Rollins, the manager. And I mean, I look at guys like you, people, or Dave Dorset, people who were journeymen, who Dave could depend on, but then he also had this mix of young talent in there as well. And it's such a neat alchemy. But yeah, like you say, Alan, just a hell of a guy. And a broadcasting, I mean, at this point, broadcasting legend. I think that is an apt description for Alan Coulter. He certainly was a broadcast legend, and just a hell of a guy too, from what everybody says. Okay, let's see. Let's keep going here. Oh, look at this. Now we've got the Super Bowl trophy is around too, but you've gotten a chance to see, and you got to see the Stanley Cup too, I believe. Perks working for the job.
Yeah, definitely. And in all honesty, I could care less about sports, but it was right there at my doorstep, so to speak.
Yep.
Uh, I was up close and personal with all of the trophies, Super Bowl trophy.
Yep.
Uh, I think that's it for trophies. No, not really. Whatever the trophies were. Oh yeah, my daughter Lindsay.
Now, yeah, absolutely. Now we've had Sue come on the show a couple of times, and this last time that she was on, we did a full Halloween episode, and she talked about a lot of the crew who would have their kids as a part of the that's a squished cockroach, right? That's a cockroach that's squished under your shoe. I think we've got there.
Yeah, it's a squished New York City cockroach. Now, this she was like 8 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting married Saturday at 33 years old.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
the New York City squished cockroach. Thank you. She's getting married Saturday. So she got paid $310. There were two trailers set up, one for the boys, one for the girls,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave them pizza, soda. They sugared them up for the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
And they got the day off from school. And the day she appeared, well, she got a W-2, so she had to report that as income. At age
Really?
oh yeah, yeah. So so the following year
Uh-huh.
they called her back, and it was a different costume.
Yeah.
So she appeared. I think she got a pay raise to, it was $330, right, for taxes.
Uh-huh.
So uh, same routine, two trailers, pizzas, burgers, hot dogs, everything else. Day off from school. So her costume was cut either Letterman cut it or the writers,
Yeah.
it, they thought maybe the joke, the costume
Yeah.
didn't work.
It didn't land. Yeah. Yeah.
Now she's 9 years old and she's pissed off and she's kicking and screaming and she's in the lobby
Uh-huh.
with her mother at the time. And she, in a direct quote here, and I'm like, I can't believe she said that out loud. She said, "Well, because she was upset that she didn't make the cut.
Sure. Of course. Of course.
So, you were on national television last year. Come on, don't be a nut. You know, maybe next year."
Yeah.
So she basically was like saying things like, I hate David Letterman.
Oh, fantastic. Yep.
He sucks." And her mother was like, "Lindsay, now stop it." A kid acting up,
If
right?
you had that on camera, Dave would have put that on the show, just so you know.
Probably. So I was like, this kid is not mine. Uh,
And getting married this Saturday. How great is that?
yeah, yeah, I'm
That's
happy.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Oh, I love hearing that. Okay, we got oh, there it is. There's you and Regis. Isn't that great?
Yep, that was a memorable moment, bringing me back to my NBC days.
Mm,
That was the NBC 80-year reunion,
yep.
and Regis was there.
Who's
I
that
think
guy? Who's that guy? I want to know who that guy is.
might have been one of my stalkers. I'm not sure.
Oh, look at this. Look at
Oh,
this. How
another
did how
note.
did Willie smell? Did Willie smell like weed?
Well, interesting you say that because, as you know, he doesn't fly.
Yeah,
He
he's got his magical mystery school bus that Willie Nelson
bus,
travels the world in.
yeah. So uh, Willie's bus stage manager went in there and he said, "You almost couldn't see the hand in front of your face." Oh, right. So Willie, one of the nicest guys, like Mr. T,
Aw, yep,
Regis, Allen, right?
yep.
So many others that are just genuinely nice people,
Mm-hmm.
energetic, positive, great people. But he spent he I said, "Willie, can I take it? Can I take a picture with you?" He said, "Oh yeah, come on." Oh, yeah.
It's okay. He won't remember it in 30 seconds anyway. Okay, let's see who else we got here. Oh, okay, so this is President Clinton, and you referred to this photo earlier. President Clinton taking a picture with everybody. How cool is that?
Yeah, my head is much larger than the other heads. I don't know why.
Big brain, my friend. Big brain. There it
Um,
is.
there's Stevie Kaufman,
Yep.
right there.
Oh, hey,
Right.
let's do we have anything you mentioned Steve Kaufman there. That's fantastic. Anything that we can say about our friend Steve?
Steve was a hard worker.
Yeah.
Uh, Jerry gave him the opportunity to do camera.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, most of it was handheld, but he was just a sweetheart of a guy
Yeah.
and missed. And you know something, I made a list of all the people from Showtime, from Letterman that
Yeah.
are no longer with us. And it's quite a lengthy list going, Kevin Drone, you know, uh, Pat Farmer's sidekick, Kenny,
Yeah, Kenny Sheehan, yeah.
and just a lot of memories.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's something that we'll probably go through that. I would love, we'll go through that one day. I want to tribute every single person that has that. I think about Michelle and makeup, and I think about, of course, Shecky. I mean, Shecky's the one that hits me in the heart the most. Obviously, losing him was absolutely brutal. And I mean, we want to be able to tribute a lot of these people that meant so much to so many. And let's go back to this picture here for a second because there's a bunch of people. There's Pat and there's Sue Hum. You have a story. I got to tell you, you have a story about Sue Hum that is one of the most from a memorabilia and collector guy, because I'm that guy, right? Like Like I'm very much that guy. I want you to tell the story about the wardrobe because I've heard this story a couple of times and I've always thought to myself, I wonder who ended up with Dave's suit jackets. Because I mean, how amazing would it be? Now tell the story about about Suham doing the call about a week. Was it about a week before the show's done?
Okay, so the Suham story. Uh, I don't know when the time frame was. Maybe I'll just say shortly before the show ended.
Yeah.
Sue puts out an email blast saying, anyone interested, she was the wardrobe lady, the
Yep.
costume.
Yep.
Anybody interested that wants to come up and go through the wardrobe, you're welcome to. So all these people go up, and I figured, I'm going to wait a couple of days, wait till the crowds, slow down.
Yeah.
I went up, and I was like Michael Jackson. I'll take two of those, and you know. Uh, so I managed to get uh, Letterman and myself. We're the same size, right?
Hmm.
We're both, I think, 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
Same. So I got a sports jacket. I've got or had uh, a half a dozen of his ties, his show ties,
Hmm.
and Sue had said that I think he rotates. I could be really off on this, like uh, between 400 and 600 suits that he rotates, and she is the person. She takes it to the tailor.
Yeah.
Letterman would never ever go in for a quote unquote fitting.
Yeah.
So you would have to measure him, you know, and then at one point Letterman said, well, what about socks? Do you have my sock size? The gray socks.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyway, I got a handful of ties, his sports jacket, which by the way, I told you on our pre-interview,
Yeah.
uh, his sports jacket I actually wore on the last show, and I was like very hesitant to do that
Yeah.
because I was fearful that he might say, "Hey, that's my jacket. Hey, what are you doing with that? And it was this jacket that Sue gave me, and
Yeah.
well, you know what? I'm gonna wear it because it's the last show.
Absolutely.
What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? Fire me?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
This is the part that just the memorabilia collector in me is just like it's a gut shot every time I think about it. Because you think about having one of David Letterman's screen used suit coats or whatever. And I mean, that's something that I would frame that up and put it up somewhere or whatever. That's a how what ended up with that coat? What happened to it?
I I definitely gave it to charity.
To
Not,
Goodwill.
not that was his name, Goodwill.
there's a
I
there's
gave
a guy named Goodwill on the street somewhere unknowingly wearing one of David Letterman's screen used suit jackets, which I just thought was delightful. There we go. I couldn't not put this one up here being Canadian. There you are with the Stanley Cup. I've got a few pictures of myself with the Stanley Cup. That's just I know you don't care about sports, but that is a hallowed piece of hardware up here. And
oh
that is
yeah,
so cool. That is
that
so
was a
cool right there.
that was a special day. Definitely, it was an honor and a privilege. The Stanley Cup. I got my picture taken with the what is it? The baseball trophy.
Yeah. Which we've shown Vince Lombardi trophy. Like it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy some of the stuff you've seen. Oh, there we go again. There's the more instinct, more
Yeah,
of the acting chops. You're pretty good at getting killed. You're pretty
yeah
good
the
at that.
the murder scene. They
Okay.
put oh yeah.
Let's talk about this one because we talked about the murder scene already. Let's talk about this picture. This is a picture that I just absolutely adore for a whole pile of reasons. You were there when they did the 50th anniversary show for the Beatles, weren't you?
Yeah, I was well actually the short story behind that is uh the memo went out.
Yep.
Do they still have memos? So the email blast that went out, right? Under no circumstances are you to go on social media, phone calls,
Yep.
don't mention it to anybody, but Paul and Ringo, Dave is going to do an interview. and it was in honor of the 50th anniversary of the Beatles performing on the Ed Sullivan Show,
Yep.
and that was in 1964.
Mm-hmm.
I got a copy of that, a hard copy, original copy of that. But uh, it was like quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, everybody has to clear the stage except for a couple of cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, so what I did, I was like, I respect that. I respect the privacy.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was, don't tell CBS this, but I went behind the scenes, behind the set, and it was a monitor, big monitor. Took it for a long time. Didn't spiel it out to, social media or anything like that. I
Yeah.
started sharing maybe a year or two after, like on Facebook and everything, because it was truly a historic moment to have, you know, uh, half of the Beatles, Ringo and Paul on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then, which brings me to the iconic appearance of Paul performing on the marquee of the It's
Yeah.
Hush. Didn't go out to the press. The
Yep.
only people that knew about it was the mayor's office, police, and it was a huge setup.
Mm-hmm.
Paul appearance on Letterman.
Yep.
That
That's
was an
one of the
icon.
moments, for Late Show. I mean, there's a lot of iconic moments, obviously, in the David Letterman body of work. One of the moments that people talk about the most is Paul McCartney, I should say, performing on the marquee. That's one of those iconic moments that well, it really, at the end of the day, it continues on. You think about, the mashup of what that is. When you think about them performing on the rooftop back in the day, and then also them showing up on the Ed Sullivan Show the way that they did, and it's kind of a mashup of those two things together in a brand new moment. Such a beautiful, beautiful piece of television history was that moment, and I mean, look at what you got to see. I mean, my word. And then there's our boy Jerry Foley. We haven't really talked about him. At the time of this recording here, um, the Emmys have just happened, and they had a beautiful in memoriam shot of Jerry during the montage, which is fantastic. You worked with Jerry for a long time, man. Any words of tribute that you want to give to this legendary director?
Yeah, absolutely. Worked the show actually from the very beginning. You
Mm-hmm.
know, August 30th, 1993, and of course, the backstory, the history was playing back the original late night show.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of funny stories with Jerry. He oftentimes would come and, after a big show, especially,
Mm-hmm.
or after like a webcast, he would go around and literally thank everybody. So he approached me this one particular day that I'll always remember, and he said, "John, thank you very much. We had a great show." I said, I downplayed it. I said, "Jerry, I'm only one piece of a 5,000 piece puzzle here." And he laughed, and he folded his arms, and he goes, "Well, without that piece, the puzzle would not be complete." Which the story is, it takes, I won't use the word village, but it takes a
Yeah.
team
It's a community, man. Absolutely.
to, 300 to 350 people, staff and crew, you know, everybody from the janitors to, the engineer, George Clark, who rides
Mm.
Letterman up to his office,
The freight
and
elevator. Yep.
piece of the puzzle. Background in a movie. I'm like an extra guy, He says, and he told me that. The other thing was with Jerry, he would come up to me, and sometimes I'd be like in the daydreaming look, you
Mm.
know. I'm like, looking around, and it'd be, you know, downtime. He says, uh, John Moran, what are you thinking about right now, right at
Mm.
this moment? And I'd say, uh, cold mashed potatoes. I would appear to be like, in another world, like,
Uh-huh.
daydreaming kind of a thing. It was just a little banter back and
No,
forth.
no, no, no. Those little moments, it's so funny. You guys go from 0 to 100 and then back to 0 again many times to downtime for a while, depending on the schedule of the day and the flow of things and what's going on. And it's those are your foxhole buddies. And that one there is that is a very, very important piece to the Letterman puzzle is Jerry Foley. There's of course the Vince Lombardi Trophy. So we alluded to that. Now look at this. Look at these two kids. Look at
Yeah.
these two kids right here, John.
Well, I was younger then.
You both were. Look
Uh,
at that.
yeah, that was at I think the first year at the Woolman Rink, the ice skating rink,
During the
the
Christmas
iconic
party?
ice skating rink in Central Park, a place where a lot were made. So that was just hey Dave, can I take a picture with you? And he was courteous. Uh, uh, so it was a full buffet,
Yep.
and the main course was meatloaf. And all right, meatloaf. My mother made meatloaf, so let's go with that.
Sure.
So,
Comfort food.
yeah. So who was at the party? The only one that stands out is Mia Farrow. She was
Wow.
she was at the party, and Mia Farrow, and there were paparazzi all over, the
Yeah.
entire circumference of the ice skating rink,
Yeah.
and trying to get their shots. We did two uh, woman rink Christmas parties. They would load everybody at the theater in stretch limos. Or Dave would maybe he would show up, maybe he wouldn't.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's the quirk. But at the end of the day, the family was always there. And I mean, again, I've said this so many times about this show is our show is a celebration of David Letterman and company. And the company, I mean, you're doing such a good job today, John, of describing that. Just a couple more, and then we can finish off for our first episode. Look at this guy, Dave, another Dave. That's a great shot,
Yeah, that's of course
Mr. Dave Grohl.
yeah, Dave Grohl. That was might have been the last show. I'm not sure about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
He's, as you know, many, many, many times.
yeah,
Uh, he was at the wrap party along with
yeah,
the top 10 people,
yeah,
the celebrities, and let's add him to the list as far as the nicest guy. You could
yeah.
talk to him like we're having a conversation right now, and yeah, big Foo Fighters fan as Letterman is as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and well, we've got some overtures out there. I think sooner than later, I think we'll probably have Mr. Grohl on the show. That's my little version of manifesting in the secret. Again, there we go. There's you in action while Dave is in action. Two hardest working men in show business.
Oh, a story just popped into my head about that.
Please,
Uh,
please.
Mike Handoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Letterman, the mic, and it turns out somebody on the crew did a prank. They coiled up the cable so that it would be way too short and it wouldn't have a long, reach
Mm-hmm.
on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get somebody on the crew, no names mentioned, I don't even know who it was. They tied up the cable so that Letterman would be like, hey, what's going on here? And then one of my teammates, Dan Campbell, came over, and Letterman, of course, made a joke of it. So, we got several union people involved in this short cable, and then Dan, like, bailed me out, helped me tremendously in loosening up that cable. And anyway, that was just a side story that was like quite embarrassing. And Jerry, I hear him in my ear. So what's going on with, because he sees Dave doing his goodbye to the audience,
Yeah.
and Jerry was like, "What's wrong with what's up with Dave's mic? Why is he struggling with the cable?" Well, somebody tied up the cable with zip tied or something, and it wasn't because Letterman likes to walk around a little bit and have free reign with
Yeah.
the cable.
And that's
That's That's what happened.
That's a three-person prank because they're pranking you, they're pranking Dave, and they're pranking Jerry at the same time. That's a high wire act for whoever the pranker was. You never did find out who it was?
I have some suspicions, but I'll
There's
probably
there
drop the lawsuit.
and this is
So
Joy.
Joy,
Oh, look at
Joy's
Joy.
no longer with us. She passed away at age 16 years and 2 months.
Oh, she's
But yeah,
beautiful. She's beautiful, Johnny.
yeah, she's. I have. This is well. I have two Samoyeds now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a real handful. Vacuuming
Mm.
every 20 minutes. So I take her. I take both of them to the groomer like every 20 minutes. It's terrible. Yeah, that's the first man on the moon. The second man on the moon.
There we go. How
Buzz
cool
Aldrin.
is that?
Yeah.
How cool is that? I mean, my word. And I think that is all that I had chosen for today. Um, you're a trooper, man. This has been so much fun. Before we now obviously, I mean, you and I we talk on the phone. We've connected a bunch. There's a whole bunch of stories here we haven't gotten to, like
Oh,
a
absolutely.
whole bunch. Let me pick one more name off the list here that I have before we I know.
What?
Oh,
No.
I know. I told you. I told you it would go
Oh, no.
fast and we didn't even scratch the surface. But the next time you come on, we can just get to some stories, which would be great because we've done a good job setting the table of how you got there and all this stuff. I'm gonna pull one name off the list though. And yeah, it's gotta be Rickles. What's your Don Rickles story?
Oh, so Rickles was on the show numerous times,
Yep.
and uh, if Rickles were alive today, let's put it bluntly, he couldn't get away with the shit that he did when he was on Letterman. Okay, but iconic Letterman loved him.
Yep.
Uh, Often there were a couple of isolated times where Letterman would make reference to not only Don Rickles but Regis,
Yep.
saying the three of them would go out to dinner and they're waiting for the check to arrive, and Regis 5 times out of out of 10 would excuse himself, go to the men's room, so the waiter would come back and hand Dave the check, you know, and the other person the check. But oh yeah, so who are we talking about now?
Don. So Don. Um.
Don Rickles. Yeah. So there was a situation where I don't know what the bit was, but like 5 or 6 stagehands came out and squirted Rickles these water pistols and he stagehand, and Rickles was running all over the stage, and he wound up next to me, like kind of like hiding behind me, kind of thing.
A water gun fight with Don Rickles.
Yeah, yeah.
There's not
So
many people who can say that sentence, John. Like you've been involved as perhaps as a barrier during a water fight with Don Rickles. That's pretty cool.
Jerry Lewis was another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very beginnings of Letterman. It was probably 95 or 96.
Yep.
Jerry Lewis was on, and Letterman leaned in. He goes, "Jerry, are you ready to go nuts?" Like, why don't you just go around the stage? And I think he might have goosed me. You know, I was by the boom there at the time, chewing gum, and he went up by Dave Dorset and he tried to pull his headset off, and then he sits down. Jerry sits down and he does the old water to the ear and he spits it out.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And then there were guests like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro
Yep.
together
Yep.
on Letterman.
Yep.
And here they are. These guys are 7 feet away, iconic actors, and I'm like a part of it. You know,
Mhm.
uh, Madonna. We spoke of Madonna. We spoke of Mr. T.
Yeah.
Regis.
John, this is so much fun doing this with you. And I want you to come back and we can tell some more of these stories. You wanted to give some, I wanted to make sure that before we finished off, you gave any shout outs that you wanted to give before we close up this episode, your first time on here.
Shout outs to like crew members, former
I
crew
don't know.
members,
I don't
or
know.
who?
I just wanted to make sure if there was anybody that you wanted to say hi to, or any final kind of thoughts that you wanted to throw out there, or before we end this first time you appearing on the show.
Well, that would be an iconic moment if you could get Hal Gurney on the show.
Oh, I know. You
Um,
had a phone call with him a week ago,
I
didn't you?
well, he on his when he retired from Late Show, retired forever. He
Yeah.
goes back to the par days, as you know. So he uh, wrote everybody a personal thank you. He used to call me Catholic John because I'm Irish Catholic, right? So, dear Catholic John, thank you for all the hard work. Uh, I'll always remember your jokes and
Mm,
etc. So, on the letterhead, it gave his address in Sharon, Connecticut. You'll
mhm,
edit that out. And so I got on the internet thing and cut to the chase. I came across his phone number.
mhm,
I gave him a call. It was probably a 7-minute phone call. So we reminisced about some of the stories.
mhm,
We referenced Jack Sumroy, his golfing buddy. And
mhm.
I said, Hal, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me the opportunity of 22, almost 23 years of great. I'll be forever indebted to you. And then we drifted a little bit. I go, Al, January 25th, 99 years old, Hal. And I said to him, Hal, what's it like being 99? And then I'm like, oops. And typical Hal Gurney humor, he said, John, I'll be honest with you. I have never celebrated my birthday ever, not even a cake, because you know why? It brings me closer to death.
There you go. I wouldn't expect anything except a quirky response from that guy, and I'm really grateful that you've taken time out of your day to talk to us about this here today. I'm gonna just do a real quick sponsor plug, and then I'll do a quick outro. Please stay on here. Actually, if you want to be part of the sponsor plug, the Letterman podcast has one sponsor only, and it is Rupert G and the Hello Deli. Now, the Hello Deli obviously not owned by Rupert anymore, but guess what? He owns hello-deli.com. Hello-deli.com is your only source for official Late Show with David Letterman merchandise. You got mugs, you got hats, you got shirts. Anywhere that you want to get official, the only place to get official Late Show with David Letterman merchandise is hello-deli.com. Any Rupert stories here before we go, John?
Just add him to the list, Mr. T, uh, all those guys, Hal, everybody. He knew everybody by first and last name.
Yeah.
My only disappointment with Rupert was he didn't add my name to the sandwich lineup. You know, I mean, Rupert, give me a break. I mean, even like uh, the Moran liverwurst special, something like that, But just kidding aside, he was he was a real gem of a guy, and I'm sure he's a forever friend of yours. And
Yeah.
boy, did he strike gold in that little deli
Yeah.
that was kind of like off Broadway,
Yeah.
you know. And you know what? The universe spoke, and the universe gave him a full plate of positivity and
Yeah.
greatness, and a real kind, spiritual soul, Rupert. And Miss
Absolutely.
May, she's good too.
Rupert and May are amazing creatures. I love them both. And again, there was no more perfect a sidekick for Late Show with David Letterman than that of Rupert and May of the Hello Deli, hello-deli.com. This has been, again, I say this leaving the show so many times, but it's the truth. This is why we do the show. These stories, I believe, are ones that need to be preserved. And really, the people who made this show, just like Rupert when he cooked with love. You know what? These people, when they produced this show, they produced it with love. This has been another episode of the Letterman Podcast with Mike Chisholm. Coincidentally, I am Mike Chisholm. Thank you and good night.
Overcoat and underpants.